Okay. Hello everyone, welcome to Legacy IES. So we are here for your economic survey of science and tech. Okay, so from science and tech we have one chapter that we get in economic survey that we are going to cover. Okay, now let's get started. So this is the chapter is about evolution of the AI ecosystem in India and the way forward. Okay, now I have taken the headings and everything from the economic survey itself, economics headings as well as graphs and everything else I have done it handwritten. Okay, so that it is shorter, because otherwise this is a 40 plus page document of just this chapter with a lot of things written. So it is haphazard for you also to understand and for me also to teach. You won't remember anything if I just underline and start scrolling it. Now let's get started. So first thing is artificial intelligence in India's economic context. Now the first thing is that it talks about that in the last economic survey we talked about that AI can be this, AI can do this, or the entire labor ecosystem can change because of AI. So all that they talked about in their last economic survey. So now first thing that they addressed was that AI has actually moved from hype in 2024 to a reality in 2026. So now there is so much widespread application that it is no more something that is to be coming in future or nothing like this. Now this is the reality of the world that we live in. Okay, now next thing it talks about that the usage is very high now. So 88% organizations globally 88% organizations globally have said that they use AI in some form. So in some form of the or the other, they are using AI. This is the claim, and the claim comes from this McKinsey report. Okay, so this McKinsey report on AI talks about this. So basically, as you can see, it says use of AI for at least one business function by respondents organization. This survey was conducted by McKinsey. Now you can see how steeply it has increased. So 2022 was the first version of chat GPT that we saw, that was December. Now you can see, so literally this is just the end of 2022. That's why you don't see much increase here. From 2023 you see what is the level of increase. So from 50 we have went to 88%. Now in 3 years, which other sector do you see 33% growth? Huh? This is not even 33. If you consider 50 as the base, then this is 60, then this is 66 or even more than that percent of growth that we are talking about. So the growth has been steep with respect to organizations using artificial intelligence. Now, so this is the good data to quote in mains. That is my McKinsey, 88% organizations globally now use AI in some of their function. Good data to quote. Also, if you can remember, you can also draw this very simple diagram. 50, 55, 72, 82, 88. Simple diagram. If you can remember, you can just draw this also quickly. It will fill up some space. It will also look good. Now, another thing that it talks about, that even though so many companies, 88%, all that amount of companies have taken up AI, but it is still, the control is very unequal. In the sense, the control is very unequal. Yeah, so the control is very unequal. Control is unequal in the sense that there are only few rich countries. There are only few rich countries which are actually building these AI based systems. Yeah, so only few rich countries are actually building these AI based systems. High income countries still account for approximately 58% of AI uses. Okay, so you can understand that when we are talking about high income countries, there are very few of them, and they account for almost 58% of the AI usage globally. And this is a cause of concern because only few rich countries are able to make those models. For example, Chat GPT, Gemini, all these are coming from USA, correct? Similarly, the DeepSeek you might have heard of, that is coming from China. So there are hardly 3-4 nations, 5 nations from where who are directly involved in this AI models. Otherwise, most countries are just passive users of these services. Okay, so this is an issue. Now, then it talks about the asymmetries and trade-offs in the AI ecosystem. So now the economic survey, as it goes very analytical. So it says that one thing that some people tend to suggest is that India should also start doing what US and China did and start doing the same things. Maybe we are a little behind, but we can catch up. Now, so this economic survey tries to debunk. So basically what it says that we actually face 3 hard constraints because of which copying US or China is not very feasible. Okay, now see what are those. So first is capital and compute power. So it says simple thing that frontier models requires billions of dollars. Okay, now what are frontier models? So basically the general models that you see, for example, making of Gemini, Chat GPT, all of these. Okay, so all these different models, LLMs, large language models that can do many varied things. Correct. Making those frontier models requires billions of dollars. Okay, so this is a capital issue for us. If you understand, then there is so much investment in AI. Now, some people may say that that is an AI bubble because all of the money that is being invested is from one AI company to another AI company, but does not matter. At the end of the day, it requires billions of dollars that we don't have directly as of now. Then there is very high level of uncertainty. Correct, that what will happen, how everything will take course, from where you're getting the money, next round of funding. So there is very high level of uncertainty. If you're not able to get that fund, you will lag behind. Another frontier model will take its course and it will start leading. So that is a major issue. Now India can't waste its scarce resource on this. Scarce resource means India is not a very resource rich country in comparison to all those Western countries which have a lot of money and different kinds of capital. So we are resource scarce. So this is very uncertain for us. Then global GPU shortage. So there is global GPU shortage because of which projects are constantly getting stuck. So this is another major issue. So GPU shortage, now sometimes it is manufactured, sometimes it is because of non-availability of the raw materials. GPU, if you know, this is GPU, CPU and GPU. This is graphic processing unit. Okay, this is the core of artificial intelligence. So graphic GPUs, so basically what you know as CPUs, they are very good at something called serial processing. Serial processing is what? That I open my webcam of my laptop, I record a video, okay, then over that video I make some edits, okay, I just increase the length, make it slow motion, whatever, then I upload this video on Google Drive, then from Google Drive I try to upload this on YouTube for you people to watch. Now this is a serial task, correct? First thing, I have to record the video, then only I can edit the video, then only I can upload it on Google Drive, then only I can upload it on the YouTube. So this is serial processing. And CPUs are, CPU as you know as central processing units, which you have in your computers, laptops and all mostly. So this is very good at serial processing. But artificial intelligence and technologies like these does not work on serial processing. They actually work on something called parallel processing. They work on parallel processing. Parallel processing as in they do many tasks simultaneously to give you the best result. For example, if let's say I ask Gemini, what is Gemini? Or let's say I ask ChatGPT. So I ask ChatGPT, what are you? So it will say ChatGPT is. Now, the next blank that it will fill, it will first search whatever data it has in its whole database. So ChatGPT is any sentence that starts with ChatGPT is, it will try to find out what is the next word, what is the next word, what is the next word. And for all of those different words, for example, some word may be LLM, some word may be AI, some word may be time pass, so whatever. Okay, now it will assign different probability percentages. For example, LLM was given in its resources almost 51% of the times he was getting LLMs. Then AI he was getting for 30%. Let's say 10% he was getting time pass and some other even smaller. So then based on this it chooses LLM and the next words that it shows you is LLM. Understood? So basically now, of course, this is not happening serially. If this happens serially, just think, it goes through every document. It has lakhs and millions of documents. So it goes through all those millions of documents, first document, second document, third document, fourth document. It goes like this. Then it collates the data, then make a graph, okay, or a Excel sheet, and then get the most probability one, and then eventually give you the result as LLM here. अब इसमें तो 2 दिन लग जाएंगे. So after 2 days you will get the next word. That is not possible. So actually this works on parallel processing. So there are, instead of one big CPU that has large cores, you have very small mini cores. Okay, many small brains. Now these small brains can look at all single documents all simultaneously and then get to the result much quicker, because they're simultaneously looking at all these documents and then getting you the next term. That's why it gives out the output so quickly. Now this is called parallel processing, and parallel processings are actually done best by GPU, that is graphic processing units. Understood? So you understand now why instead of CPU, GPU becomes so important for artificial intelligence. And the global GPU shortage is a major risk for us. Many projects are stalled because of this. Then next, what is the next constraint? Next constraint is energy and infrastructure. So AI data centers consume massive power. This you might know. So AI data centers, first of all, they require a lot of energy, as well as, because of all the energy that is being used, they also produce a lot of heat. So they need a lot of cooling systems also. Now because of these two requirements of a lot of energy and cooling requirement, they are very power sensitive, or they take massive amount of power. Now for example, US data is given here, so 2% to 5%. So it used to be 2%, now it is almost capturing 5% of electricity demand growth is due to AI. So in US, the demand growth from 2% to 5% has been seen because of AI. Now this also became a topic in the parliament of USA. So in the parliament of USA, they were discussing that even though the world uses all these large language models and all that, now because most of these large language models have their data centers in US and they are US based companies, they are using all our resources. And who is getting the welfare? The entire world is getting whatever they want. So basically, who is paying for all this energy, subsidized energy that they are getting? It is being paid by US taxpayers, and that was their claim, that US taxpayers are actually funding all these companies who are running as global giants around the world. Okay, so that was the argument, just for you to remember. Now next thing, see, over 70% of all data centers by count are located in high income countries. Understood? So data centers are mostly located in these high income countries. As you can see here, this is high income countries in general. This is China, this is India. Now some people might have a doubt कि USA अलग से क्यों नहीं दिखाया? ये सब, all of them are high income countries. China is not considered a high income country as yet. So China and India are given differently. India's portion is only 3%. So we have very small data center coverage, okay, or data centers, global data centers that are in India are only 3%, while we produce a lot more data. Okay, now it says India cannot divert power from development, so focus on energy efficient AI becomes important. Correct? Because our development is also lacking, so we have to develop things more. That's why we cannot just move all the power to AI. We must focus on energy efficient artificial intelligence. Then, so this was the second constraint. First constraint was the capital, second constraint was the energy and infrastructure, third constraint is labor market uncertainty. Now, this is actually the main focus of the article. You will see this getting repeated again and again. So, there is risk of jobless growth, not immediate job loss. So what economic survey talks about, it says that there won't be immediate job loss as yet, but the problem is hiring actually stops. So output grows but hiring slows down. Now this is also shown by NASSCOM data in India. So if you see NASSCOM data, you will realize that all these big IT companies you know of that have generated a lot of employment in India. For example, Infosys, TCS, all these companies, you will find that they have halted their hiring. So their hiring has decreased a lot. They're not removing the people that are there as yet. There is no mass removal as such, but they have stopped hiring. Also, at the lower level, that is at the entry level, jobs have severely reduced. Right now, mainly when what I'm talking about is coding jobs. So mainly the entry level coding jobs, DevOps jobs, all these basic jobs that are very routine in nature, they are being completely replaced. So at least half the workforce is gone from there. Of course, the higher end use cases of or higher end coders and everything, those are still there. Then AI agrees with users. This can reduce critical thinking. This is another point that is mentioned. This you might have experienced also, that if you scold ChatGPT, what are you saying? I don't believe this, that. So then it immediately takes a turn and start favoring you. Then next is development oriented approach to artificial intelligence. Development oriented approach to artificial intelligence. So it says the necessity of India's own AI solution. Now, first part was telling about the general artificial intelligence, how it has grown, this, that. The second part was telling you about why India cannot go the China or US way. We have certain constraints. Okay, now this third part actually talks about why should India have its own AI solution. This is the third part. Okay, now why should India have it? So it says Western models are built on Western data and are profit driven. So these are the two issues. One is that they are based on Western data. Okay, some Western laws, Western ideas, so they don't fit in well with the Indian ethos that well. So this is a issue. Also, they're mostly profit driven as in these are run by capitalistic countries as well as all these big tech giants. Okay, like Meta, Google, okay, all these giants, even Twitter now, X. So all these are profit driven. So this is an issue for us. Now, they often fail in Indian context and can be exclusionary. This topic is again highlighted many times, that the present version of AI that is unregulated can be very exclusionary in nature. Okay, it can have many biases ingrained in them because it is trained on Western data. Then if we don't build our own solutions, then what will happen? India can effectively become a permanent digital colony. India can become one of the permanent digital colonies. This is an important term. This you can use in your answers also, that this is an urgent These are the urgent steps that we must take so that India does not become a permanent digital colony. Okay, permanent digital colony as in we are not producing anything for ourselves, so we are depending on other countries, and then we are all the time just paying them like a tenant. Okay, we won't be ever landlords. So this is the problem. Then, so this is why India needs to have its own AI. Now, once you get this, now how should India's AI ecosystem or AI framework look like? This is the obvious next part. So next part, it says bottom up approach to AI development in India. So first is global AI paths. So there are two kinds of path that global AI has taken. First is top down approach, that is focusing on frontier technologies, that is developing frontier technologies. This is the main race that is going on between ChatGPT, Gemini, DeepSeek, all these. The other approach is bottom up, that is focused on applications. Okay, so rather than, if you, for example, if you use ChatGPT, now if you want to edit a Word document, I am asking a very simple thing. If you ask ChatGPT to edit a Word document in the perfect format that you want, you will you will start tearing up. It is so difficult. Why? Because it cannot make those small tweaks that you want. Let's say you mark that on 4th point, these words please bold, these words please remove, these words like this. So if you give those general instructions, ChatGPT or any LLM model right now cannot do this properly, and that's why Word documents, or any, even if you try to make slides, some people might have used Gamma to make slides, so they also don't work that well, that precise they are not. Now the thing is, ChatGPT that is actually making its own like complete new codes it can make. Okay, it can even generate videos now, it can make movies, so all those capabilities are there. Cannot edit a Word document. Don't this seems, doesn't this seem very non-obvious to you? Yes, it is non-obvious. The thing is that it is not their focus. They are not focused on कि PPT बनवा दें. Their focus is not to get the best PPT. Their focus is on to make a general model that is very, very strong and it can perform the most advanced task. That is why they are called frontier. Now, what this economic survey suggests is India need not focus on this. India should focus on bottom up application based AI. This should be our approach. This is what it talks about. Okay, now see this. Now it talks about India's strength. So what are India's strength? India's strength is India has a very good talent pool. We have very high AI literacy. Okay, if I tell you that 18% of the data that is being generated in these AI models are actually coming from India. So there is very high AI literacy. May not be in the interior parts of India, but does not matter. We are very populated. So we still have very high AI literacy, and in research output and research and development with respect to AI, we are second after USA. Now, of course, there are many collaborations with foreign universities, this, that, whatever. Ultimately, we are second with respect to AI research output. Okay, now, next is our weaknesses. What are our weaknesses? So, there is limited compute capital and energy. Those are the three constraints that we learnt about. Of course, those are our weakness. Now, if this is our condition, this is our strength, this is our weakness, then what should be done? So bottom up applications oriented approach is suited for India. So this should be our focus, bottom up application oriented artificial intelligence. Now it says what? Now see, this is a good term, you can use it in your exam. It can also be asked. So this is focus on small language models. Focus on small language models. So one term is large language models. Chat GPT, Gemini, all those. Now, economic survey talks about small language models. What are these small language models? So it requires less power and data. Now, small language models are same. For example, I will make a SLM for Word documents. Possible? That completely focusing on making the best Word document. Whatever the user says in terms of in simple language, it is able to change those things in the Word document. Okay, not very difficult to make, but is it very useful? Yes, it is very useful. So many people in India or around the world are still doing what? They still have to do corrections in their Word document. Some formatting they are changing, something they are changing. इधर दबा उधर हो जाता है. From this page it goes to other page. Sometimes the borders are gone. So all those issues are there, correct? Now all those can be resolved by a simple SLM for Word documents. So this should be our focus. Okay, so this will first of all require less power and data, correct? Generating of videos and all takes a lot of data and power. This is much easier, correct? So much less power and data. Next, it will be more accurate. Why? Because it will have a specific purpose. So for example, a good example given here is trained only on Indian law. Now if you make a small language model that is trained only on Indian law, it has only read Indian law, then if you give it some case to, let's say, file a affidavit, file a notary. So whatever, if they are trying to file this, now because they know only Indian law, there is no confusion. This SLM that you create will be much better than Chat GPT, which has read laws from all over the world. It keeps on mixing up. It does not know in which countries what norms are followed. It is very difficult for Chat GPT. But this will be much faster because the database is much smaller, correct? And it will be more accurate also. Then last thing is encourage local hardware and startups. So this is the last advantage. If we start making small language models, now small language models can be made by our startups. Also hardware, we can develop hardware for at least these small language models. So both of these will also get a push. Very good thought, correct? Then next idea that it is giving is we should have government hosted repositories that can democratize innovation. Example, Bhashini for Indian languages. So basically we can develop government institutions, all these can develop repositories that is available to everybody in different languages, so that AI becomes more accessible to every Indian. Then last point, focus on open source platforms to avoid fragmentation. Okay, for example, this has also been a prelims question, that which of the following is an open source platform, correct? So it was written DigiLocker, Aadhaar, all these were given as options. Now open source, as in open source platforms are something for which the source code is available to everybody. So everybody has the source code for this. Now if everybody has the source code for this, what can be done? On this, anyone can build their own app, website, whatever. They can make use of this platform because it is an openly available code. So what they will do, they can simply build over it. Okay, so these are open source platforms that needs to be promoted, so that there is no fragmentation between these SLMs, and we form a much more integrated network, and eventually get to a point that we are at least able to satisfy all our needs, and then we can go international also. Now next topic that it talks about, so once you have gotten that what should be India's approach to AI, that is we should focus on bottom up application oriented SLMs. If you forget everything, just remember these 3-4 words. India should focus on bottom up application oriented SLMs. Simple. Now, if this is our focus, we will also require something called human capital for this. So next part is about human capital. So it talks about the AI capability actually comes from understanding of algorithms as well as software engineering. So it lies at the intersection of algorithms and software engineering. Now, it talks about human capital. Now see, so it AI capability requires experience based knowledge that comes from building and scaling models. So it argues that just by reading a textbook or reading this in university won't directly work. What you need to have AI capability is to have experience in building and scaling models. That is, when you have built and scaled models from scratch, then only you really learn or you really develop AI capability. Otherwise, it just becomes, see, if earlier any technology came, with that technology also came many routine jobs. Correct? That was the thing. For example, IT came, correct? Information technology came. With this, people started making websites and many different mechanisms, databases, all these had to be managed. Now, the making of all these softwares and platforms was difficult, correct? So that was being done by a small group of people, but maintaining those is a much easier job and somebody has to maintain it, correct? Somebody should always be online to maintain that there is smooth flow, or if there is some issue, then they will have to first try to resolve it using some small ways. If it does not work, then it is a bigger problem, then it is sent to coders or software engineers again. Otherwise, most of the work was being done by these people. Now, every technology have had these big machines came into being. Now, to operate those machines, to bring goods from or input from one place to another, people had to go. So again, people were still employed. Now the problem with AI, problem or beauty, whatever you feel like, with AI is that artificial intelligence will actually replace all routine jobs. Now the thing is, that if you just have the capability of just running the model, then you won't survive for long, because it whatever you are running in an AI model, that can be easily automated also. That is why it says that AI capability can only come from experience of building and scaling models of AI. Okay, then next, India needs to attract AI practitioner, okay, who have practiced AI. Now, from where they can get this? So, first thing is diaspora return pathways. It also talks about this brain drain, you must have heard of. So, this is reverse brain drain that they are saying. Other thing is industry to academia movement. So, basically, constant connect between industry and academia, so that people learn what is required in the industry, and from industry they go back again to academia to learn more things, and it becomes an integrated cycle like this. These are the two pathways that it suggests. Then it also talks about that the old way of going to college, having a degree and then becoming expert of it, will not work very well with this AI led world. So earn and learn models should be promoted, that is integrating academic credits with paid industry experience. So basically what you do in, because see, earlier if I went to college and I learned how to solve numericals, I learned all the theory, then only you could, then also I was a valuable employee or valuable person. Now the thing with AI is, if you are not doing it, if you are not building or scaling it, you're not learning it. So now it becomes very imperative for institutions, educational institution, to not be passive. Otherwise, educational institutions in an engineering, at last you have a BTech term project, correct? Mid-term projects are nothing. So BTech term project is the last thing that you do. That also haphazard, nothing much. Now here you won't learn anything if you are doing AI engineering and not doing anything valuable. Now, so that is why it talks about that we need to integrate academic credits with paid industry experience. So at the same time, I should be getting credits from the university while I work for an industry. So I will get money also, correct? So I need not depend on my parents, or I have to complete my education within some time. I can keep on learning, I can keep on earning. This should be the model that we should promote. Then, as AI automates routine cognitive task, correct? Routine cognitive task will get replaced. Now, what is needed is foundational skills and experiential learning becomes critical. And this is what the curriculum should change to. That is focusing on foundational skills, foundational mathematics, foundational learning of languages, all these things, and experiential learning. That is what you get out of experiencing different things. So these become important, because the routine job that you were putting data on a Excel file, or you were just taking out data, reading out names, okay, all these routine jobs will be taken away. Then next is stop training purely for coding. AI can code now. So training students only for coding, correct? That is wrong, because AI can code now. What is required is start training for domain plus AI. So basically, whatever is your domain, if you can integrate AI into it, you can become better at your job. For example, the example that was given is nurse who can interpret AI diagnostics. Now, this nurse will be much more capable than all other nurses. So this is the future, that every profession will start using more and more AI. Every teacher will start using AI, then they have started using, and nurses, everyone should be aligned with artificial intelligence along with their domain. Then, so you understand what has to change with respect to human capital for AI. Next topic is governance, institutional architecture, and data. So what should be the evolving governance structure to manage all this? Correct? अभी तक सही चल रहा है? Okay, we started with the development of AI in past few years. Then we understood why we cannot adopt the China US model. Then we learnt about what should be the model India should be taking up, that SLM model. And then we learnt about human capital, that we must change, make it ready and aligned for the new AI led world. And now we are talking lastly about governance and institutional structures for artificial intelligence. Now, first let's understand evolving governance. Now, why it is so difficult to manage AI with respect to governance or regulation is because AI innovation is much faster than any regulation. It is much faster than any regulation. So this is a huge issue. Now, what is the global governance model? So some names were given. In European Union, you have omnibus AI law. Okay, so this works for most of the things. Now, in China, you have application specific laws. So for different application, they have different laws. In USA, they have made it voluntary principles. As you can observe, this is a very capitalistic country. So they have given it voluntary principle. Voluntarily, you should come up and give what data you are collecting. Voluntarily, you should do this, that. Okay. So there's a lot of things that goes on in USA. Now, what should be India's approach? So India's AI regulation should be based on three things. First, based on NITI guidelines. Okay, so these guidelines have been released by Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. Those guidelines then aligned with national priorities. Whatever are our national priorities, it may be to uplift certain sections of the society, it may be to educate most people, it may be to eradicate certain diseases, whatever are our national priorities, it should align with it. Then last is sensitive to labor realities, understanding that India is a very labor rich market. So this becomes important, that whatever policy we make also takes into account that we have a lot of labor available, what should be done with them. Okay, then this will be mentioned 2-3 times more again within this document. Now, establish AI Economic Council for India. So this is one organization that it has suggested to make AI Economic Council for India. Now, why they want to make this? So basic aim, you understand that in India, the pace of AI adoption must be calibrated. Now, it may seem counterintuitive to some people that why we should calibrate the pace of AI. We should grow at unprecedented pace like other countries are growing. Now understand that India is not same as them. So if we don't calibrate pace of artificial adoption, and what will happen, and if we are not matching it with proper skilling, then what will happen, AI adoption will be very quick. We have not done skilling of our labor. Now what will happen, we are a very labor rich economy but with a lot of resource constraints. Then what will happen, only those small fraction of people that are employing all these AI models, they will have all the resources, everything, and a large chunk of India won't be having jobs or money, and that can be catastrophic, and this can avoid. So we must avoid destabilizing displacement of jobs. So basically we must calibrate the pace in such a way that there is no widespread loss of jobs suddenly. What this council aims to do is calibrate this AI adoption, and on the other side it should be doing promoting proper skilling side by side that matches the pace of AI adoption, so that our labor rich economy is not left wanting, and labor rich and a lot of labor that we have in India can be put to some use. And this becomes very important for India. They will mention it many more times that job loss can be a major issue. So basically if because of AI we completely shift to non-labor intensive things and suddenly our laborers don't have job, okay, then it becomes a very destabilizing factor in India. So people must have jobs. Then transparency in reporting, continuous monitoring and course corrections are required. This is general. Okay, so these are the evolving governance narratives. Then data as a strategic resource, a proposed framework. Now it talks about how we should deal with data. All the data that is India generating, how we should deal with this. Now see, so it says that in the AI era, data is the core factor of production. There are three factors of production if you remember, correct? Land, labor and capital. So now data itself is a most important factor of production. Now India with large and diverse database has a competitive advantage. This is claimed by Economic Survey, you can always quote this, that India with its large and diverse database has a competitive advantage. Then, but few global firms have asymmetric control over data and models even in India. Okay, so all these companies, you know their names, they are controlling most of our data and models, and this is an issue, correct? Now what it talks about, that India's approach, how should India approach this? So India's approach needs to be tiered regulation and enhanced obligations. Now India's approach should be to have tiered regulation. So basically not some blanket regulation that for everything you need to get this approval from government. That won't work. Okay, that will slow us down so much that we will be like some far off island in the world. So that we cannot do. We must have a tiered regulation, and enhanced obligations should come only when there is some systemic relevance or it can cause some major systemic issues. Then only enhanced regulation should be there, otherwise it should be in a proper tiered form. Now let's understand the tiered. Okay, now the three objectives that it talks about is, first, preserve openness to encourage investment and innovation. This is the first principle that we must be following, that to encourage we should preserve openness for growth of investment and innovation. Then objective 2 is ensure regulatory oversight over large scale processing of Indian data. But while we are open, we must have regulatory oversight also. Very important. When large amount of Indian data is being processed, otherwise we can become what? We can become data colonies, correct? From where all the data is just being extracted by other countries. Then last is promote domestic value retention. Okay, so basically, I'll tell you here only. This is mentioned again. So basically, what this talks about is about value retention, not about data localization. Data localization is just getting all the data inside India. You cannot take it out like this. It talks about let them take the data, but most of the value should be retained in India. Okay, now see how it works. See this. Yeah. See, first let's see the phased roadmap only. Yeah. Yeah. Let's understand here only. So value retention is what? So basically, you do what? Domestic data, these companies want to take? Fine. You should not go for data localization. Otherwise, what will happen? Because these companies always also run on data. Google is completely run on selling your data. Otherwise, what is the relevance of that company? Everything you are getting for free. YouTube, this, that, everything you are getting for free. So basically, if you do strict data localization, how will those companies work? They will not be working in India. So now, what should be done rather is value retention. That is, you try to get user data from them. You try to have proper ombudsman of those companies here. You try to get the important data that they are collecting from India to be shared with us also. So this should be the approach rather than just stopping everything. Okay. So first thing is have openness. Next thing is when it is talking about large scale Indian data use, then there should be some regulatory oversight. Last should be that we should promote domestic value retention. Then next thing that it talks about is AI safety and risk. So this is easy. AI deployment can create systemic risk if misused. Correct? Those deep fakes and all those are major issues. Now some people might have seen this deep fake where the Prime Minister of India comes on screen and says that from tomorrow we are closing all the 500 rupee notes, or from tomorrow petrol rates we are increasing by 10 rupees. So then people are lined up in front of petrol pumps. So all these keeps going. Now this is small things, but you can understand that this can also lead to communal violence, whatever. So it has very major systemic risk if misused. Then major risk flows. So see, first risk flow is generative AI, for example, these chat GPTs and all, erosion of reading, writing, critical thinking. Long term may it can weaken our human intellect. Very simple flow. Then unchecked automation can lead to labor displacement and eventually unrest. This we have already learned. Then lack of transparency can lead to misuse and opaque decision making, which can lead to loss of trust in the entire system, which is very harmful. Then what is needed? The policy response. These are the three terms. It is mentioned again and again. There should be continuous monitoring, learning, whatever are the problems, and then course correction. Continuous monitoring, learning, and course correction. This should be our framework of policy. Then last thing is phased roadmap for India's AI future. So this is easy now. First phase is enable experimentation. Correct? In the first phase, in the initial phase, allow testing and learning. Okay. Avoid premature regulation. This is very well claimed by economic survey that abhi se you start regulating everything won't work. Why? Because we are also in some form in an AI race. So we cannot be doing this. So for now, the initial thing should be to allow experimentation. Then next thing is scale adoption. So expand use where benefits are visible rather than some general models, frontier models. Expand where benefits are very clearly visible. Build institutional capacity alongside. So one way is first you are just getting wherever field you see that you can get direct benefit, first focus on them. Alongside you should also focus on institutional capacity building, so that in long term also we can have large use cases also. Understood? Then next introduce binding obligations only where risk and asymmetries are most pronounced. This we have already understood that if If there are very high systemic risk, then there should be binding regulations. But this is phase 3. First is encourage them, let them do whatever learning, whatever they want to do, let them do. Second was that we should focus on things that can give us direct benefits, and in the meanwhile we should also develop, we should also have capacity development. Phase 3 is, it talks about that there should be binding obligations where the risk is very high. That's it. Then last part, which is the conclusion. Conclusion is nothing, just directly from, they have also done this, I have also done this, that whatever you have learned till now, that only few main points they have covered. Now, AI must be treated as a strategic choice, not merely a technological development. Very good conclusion for any answer on artificial intelligence. You can also quote here that this comes from Economic Survey 2026. Understood? Very good conclusion that this is not a just a, it must be treated as a strategic choice. This is not just about some small technological development. Then India must focus on deploying AI, that is small language models, instead of frontier dominance race. Correct? Then our approach should be bottom up, that is starting small, we are trying to build up. Correct? There also we wrote that whatever are the visible benefits, first take them, and in the meanwhile we build capacity to eventually get to a point that we can develop our own large language models or any large use cases. So our approach is bottom up. Then we should take sector specific, correct, as I explained you, those Word documents, different sectors, agriculture sector we should focus on. So different startups, different ways for each of them, and inclusive AI, correct, that does not have biases, understands Indian values, Indian ethos, and it does not displace our labor rich market suddenly. It should have proper displacement process. Understood? So these are the principles by which we should be governing, we should be taking our AI forward. Okay, so this was the whole thing. I've covered everything that is given in the economic survey, and you need not do anything other than this. That's it for this lecture. Thank you.